Target is officially the new Bud Light. The retail giant has reportedly lost $9 billion in the week following boycott calls over LGBTQ and particularly trans-friendly kid clothing, allegedly.
This comes as the Bud Light boycott has cost its parent company, Anheuser-Busch, almost $16 billion in market value. Wasn't just trans clothing that we're going after. We saw a lot of video of people vandalizing any rainbow merchandise across the store.
Did we see a lot of people vandalizing the merchandise?
I saw 2 separate videos of people vandalizing merchandise in the store. Target
Shouldn't
had said
do that. That's bad.
Target said the reason that they actually decided to take down some of the merchandise was not ideological, but that so many of their employees were being harassed that they had to do it for safety reasons.
It's the heckler's veto.
Yeah. So look, we'll see what Target does. Maybe we live in a world where no one is allowed to buy Pride merchandise at big box stores anymore because Republicans are successfully imposing an ideology that says it's wrong for a retailer to sell clothes that are friendly toward the idea of there being gay people or trans people in America. And that's a move that the country can choose to go in.
I mean, people can not shop there and encourage other people to not shop there if they want to. I don't care particularly at all.
I mean, I definitely care about people who feel so strongly that people can't make choices about how to live their lives and buy clothing the way they want, that they engage in vandalism and harassing of workers and their job. And I also don't agree with homophobia and people who are bigoted, generally speaking.
I don't either.
So this is the world that we live in, and it's interesting to see whether or not this is like a very normie thing, right? Everybody shops at Target. There's a big Target in every pseudo major city in America. It's a watering hole of places where people come together to buy everything under the sun.
We used to do a lot of shopping at Target before we moved to D.C. Now do it less often. But, back in Michigan, that was a staple because you can get everything there.
Yeah, back in Westchester, it's just a treat. There's a Starbucks in there. Also a store that has been the point of controversy as they've ruined Christmas with their
woke
red
agenda.
cups.
Are they transing the cups?
They had snowflakes instead of Jesus on the cups, and that upset people at some point in American history. So this is nothing new. People have had frustrations with corporations as they try to market to broader groups.
Well, how about this? There was some question, I think you had some question about whether this was actually going to work or whether they, the financial consequence, like maybe it's a brief dip, but everybody forgets about it, or they're hurting somewhere, but then they're bringing in other customers like it, so it all evens out. It looks like, the Matt Walsh people are actually, collecting a win here, have inflicted some serious
seems like it. But the question is if there's going to be real change. I mean, Elon Musk lost $22 billion on Twitter. Doesn't seem to have really affected his decision-making, although he has hired this new woke CEO from MSNBC to take over the website and hopefully get his advertising dollars back up. So it is an open question about whether or not this actually meaningfully impacts for the longer term Target's choice to carry certain kind of merchandise. It does seem like particularly the bathing suits for trans people were what was the most
right. I mean, there's some
triggering
differences. I don't think your average person certainly cares. I certainly don't. I support LGBT equality. I support same-sex marriage. I support tolerance
for gay
people. Most Americans do. I don't remember. I mean, there's opposition to that kind of thing from hardcore social conservatives, which are a shrinking number of the population. Pride celebrations around this time every year, right? Selling rainbow and ally type stuff. This is just my perception. I don't know if my perception is accurate. It seems like there's more blowback this year, and that's really not so much on the gay side of it, although maybe it's cover, and there was always that animus, and people were afraid to, act out on that prior to this. But it's concentrated right on the trans category, or particularly the trans category for children, where there's some debate obviously going on about what the policy should be.
Well, this is what activists argue, that when people like Ron DeSantis and many others across the country support policies like the Don't Say Gay bill, or the policies that target trans families from being able to raise their children the way that they like, or prevent adult trans people from dressing in the way that they like, that it emboldens folks who might have harbored animus toward those groups to come out and start being violent. We talked about the 2 young men who filmed themselves in a car saying that they were going to target members of the LGBT community and their allies. They said they were going to hunt them down. Maybe it's hyperbolic. We say words are violent. We laugh when people say words are violent, but there does seem to be an extent to which the growing number of conversations that put into question the right for trans people to live their lives freely without interference of the state is making individuals feel like they can vandalize stores and potentially even hunt someone down with impunity.
I mean, if I'm going to try to steelman the conservative position here, I think the right would say, for the sake of this being a debate show, the right would say liberals, Democrats, the allies of the LGBT movement and values we don't share hold institutional power. They could force, Hobby Lobby to pay for medical procedures they don't want. They don't have to resort to boycott campaigns, although they do that too sometimes. They are using the government to crush socially conservative businesses and organizations, and we're not forcing anyone to do anything in terms of this boycott. We're just expressing our values and our opposition to these companies. I think that's what someone on the right would say.
Look, Hobby Lobby already, won.
Yeah.
They don't even have to pay for their employees' health
the baking of the cake and all of that stuff.
The idea that there's institutional power. I mean, we live in a country where we get health care through our employers, right? Which is absurd because if you
We all agree
sick,
it's absurd. Literally everyone agrees that it's absurd.
If you get sick, just follow the logic, and you can't work, there goes your health care and your whole family's health care. This is the system that we designed, even as we were paying through the Marshall Plan for Europe to have universal health care. Okay, all right, we didn't get it. FDR dies before he can get it for us. We don't have universal health care. At the same time, we have these court cases that say, if I happen to work at an institution whose CEO happens to be religious, a religion that I don't even follow, potentially.
If I happen to, you have to sign up to work there. You have to apply.
All right, so we're all hoping that there's not at any point a plurality of American employers that would restrict your access to birth control or whatever other health need that you have that they happen to say that they have a religious ideological objection to. So Hobby Lobby is a chain of stores that's pretty big and significant and common in the United States of America. It's not America's #1 retailer. Maybe you think it's a bigger deal if the CEO of Walmart also decides that it has a religious objection, because it's a significant portion of the American workforce that works for Walmart or McDonald's or Amazon. That could happen, and that's the kind of precedent that that decision creates in the United States of America. Now, you can say that that's the law and that it is what it is, but there are real life consequences for us living in a country like that. And I think increasingly people are frustrated that the party that represents itself as having a disinterest in your personal life and being hands-off and being libertarian and allowing people and families to make their own choices. The decision should be between you and your doctor. The state shouldn't be interfering. Over and over again, when push comes to shove, it seems clear that what the real agenda is imposing somebody's higher up agenda, somebody's CEO, somebody's governor, et cetera, on the kind of decisions that are made in your home.
Again, I think conservatives would say the imposition is on the government forces saying that they have to do that in that case, or in the cake baking case where it's small businesses being told that they must perform expressive acts on behalf of customers who could have chosen any other venue or baker or photographer or anything for their wedding, but had to bully this a small business whose owner happens to have conservative views and hash it out at court and get the government to compel him to, and they have to go all the way to the Supreme Court. And I think that's the feeling that many have on the right, that this kind of live and let live is a one-way street, and
I've been on record.
It's not how I feel about it, because I strongly
think the
still
case
support
was not great. I don't think that was the best case, but two wrongs don't make a right. And this whataboutism, when we're living in a world where there are literally hundreds, I cannot stress this enough. If we were to actually devote time on the show to covering the full sweep of legislation, I mean, I reference it obliquely and then everyone says, oh no, that's not what really happened. But it would take a long time and a lot of segments for us to go through the literally hundreds of anti-trans bills that have been promulgated in the United States of America. Let me ask you this. How many living wage bills are we talking about being promulgated in the United States of America? How many jobs, how much jobs legislation is the focus of national conversation or the commitments of legislators around the country? How much housing legislation are we talking about or focused on? I think that you can feel the way you feel about these marginalized groups, but at the end of the day, people should be very, very aware that these are conversations that we're being provoked into having so that elites can get away with continuing to design our economic policies in this country to benefit the 1%. But meanwhile, queer activists are also hitting out at Target and corporations at large. Independent journalist and activist Aaron Reed, who we've had on this show, tweeted, "The way that Bud Light and Target are reacting to the far right, angry at including LGBTQ plus people, is exactly why many of us have railed against corporate pride. If your advocacy consists merely of rainbows that disappear at the first gust of fascist wind, it amounts to net harm." Yeah, I've seen a lot of leftists have this take that says, well, we don't support corporations anyway. We know that a lot of this like pride merch stuff is just to sell things, and it's pageantry and performative allyship anyway. And this is kind of evidence of the fact that it's not really a meaningful commitment to trans stuff. It's just about which way the market forces blow. And, you know, this seems to be evidence of that.
But I wonder if this actually disproves that there's no one actually, or no one in a liberal or left sense actually wants corporate support. Okay, now the corporation's not offering support anymore. It's not making people happy.
No, I mean, I think people, well, I can only speak for myself. What's dispiriting for me is the idea that there's so many people who would act this way in the country. The Target making the kind of decisions that it makes doesn't surprise me especially. I think that we saw the Disney case is a little different because in that case, Disney actually didn't say anything about the Don't Say Gay bill, remember? And it was employees at Disney who are themselves gay and have gay friends and family members who put pressure on Disney CEO to say something. Because the former CEO, Bob Iger, already had. And then that's what happened. So it was more organic. It was actually led by people who I think do care, as opposed to a corporation making a decision to sell merchandise to people who are going to go to a pride parade in June. You know. But let us know what you think. Do you think that these kinds of protests at Target are going to help the chances of people like Ron DeSantis, who are very much running on anti-wokeness? Where does this kind of advocacy end for people in the anti-woke movement? Will you be buying your pride gear at Target or elsewhere? Let us know. We'll have more Rising for you right after this.